In a past life, I was a notorious troublemaker, but I fell in love with the school beauty. The top student also liked the school beauty. He was worried that the school beauty wouldn't be devoted to me, so he tricked me into the equipment room, where a fire broke out and I was burned to death. Later on, the school beauty and the top student got together. Before their wedding, the school beauty learned the truth and jumped off a tall building. From then on, the top student's reputation was ruined. He went from being a pride of the heavens to a despised sinner. Eventually, he lost his sanity and was crushed to death by a car. Upon being reborn, the top student made a decision to let go of his desire to help others, to respect the fate of others, and to no longer interfere in the relationship between me and the school beauty. He wanted to witness us both descending into the earthly hell together. Chapter 1. I had just returned to the dormitory when my aloof and studious roommate, Bill, handed me a pink envelope, his voice cold as he spoke. "It's from Lisa." I thanked him, not missing the distant look in his eyes and the faint disdain. Bill and Lisa were classmates, while I pursued a different major from them. Since my phone had broken and not yet been fixed, Lisa had to rely on Bill to reach me. It wasn't easy for a girl to directly mention a date and place, so she chose to write a letter. Tomorrow was the day of the postgraduate entrance examination, and Lisa's academic performance had always been outstanding. But no one knew how anxious she became before exams. When we weren't together, she often resorted to self-harm as a way to relieve stress. After we got together, my embrace could help Lisa alleviate her emotions. But Bill didn't believe it. In his eyes, I was just a worthless person who never went to the library or studied seriously, barely passing exams. He believed I was only after Lisa's young and beautiful body. He was convinced that I would lead Lisa to sink into the lowest depths of desire, affecting her future. That's why, in our past life, he imitated Lisa's handwriting and lured me to the remote equipment room. In this life, he handed me the letter not because he had promised Lisa, but because of the deep-seated resentment he had accumulated in our past life. In our past life, Bill and I were brothers who could play basketball together on the court. We lived in the same dormitory, and he was generous and outgoing. He was the pride of the entire school, unlike me, who had entered through sheer luck. He was like a sun that shone wherever he went. Living in the same dormitory as him, I felt a great sense of honor. To not disturb his study life, I cleaned the dormitory twice a day, immediately showered and did laundry after playing basketball, keeping the dormitory tidy. If anyone disturbed him, I would be the first to rush over and stop them. He was the high flower on the mountain top, and standing beside him, even as a small blade of grass, I felt his radiant brilliance. When I went home on weekends, I would praise him in front of my mother, saying that I had an excellent roommate. My mother playfully flicked her long hair, still in her nonchalant tone. "Since he has money, build a good relationship with him. Even a little leakage from his pockets would be enough for your mother to gamble a few rounds." I didn't hold back in my retort. "All you know is gambling. One day, when you're on a losing streak, someone will chop off all your fingers. You little bastard, how dare you speak to your mother like that? Watch me beat you to death." Then the sound of heavy objects being thrown and crashing filled the room, and soon after, I rushed out of the room. She was my mother, and I could only argue back, not lay a hand on her. My face bore 2 marks from her scratches, and I looked disheveled. But I had no regrets. I wouldn't allow my mother to target Bill. Chapter 2. I am a recognized troublemaker in school, known as a bully who bullies classmates and steals money. They say I always have bruises on my face because I don't study well and get into fights with people from outside of school. They say my mom is a wicked gambler and my dad is a murderer. They believe that as the child of 2 scoundrels, I am destined to be a failure. Some even say I often hang out with gangsters and that I am their little lover. There are all sorts of unpleasant rumors circulating. But as long as Bill is around, he makes sure that people don't spread false information. At that time, I was grateful. Even though I am a boy, I didn't want to bear such a bad reputation. I was in a relationship with Lisa. No one blamed Lisa. They all believed that it was my bad boy aura that attracted her. It was my fault. Lisa, such a young girl, how could she resist the pursuit of a decent-looking rogue like me? Lisa is innocent and pitiable. Bill has pity for Lisa, but more than that, he looks down on her from a higher position. He doesn't believe that I, struggling in the mud, can bring happiness and joy to Lisa. Chapter 3. At 7 o'clock in the evening, on the school field, I saw my girl, Lisa. She ran over, cheeks flushed, slightly out of breath. When she saw me, she smiled and said, "Sorry, I'm late." Girls have the right to be late. I opened the thermos and handed it to her. Today is the last day of her menstrual period. Lisa took a sip of water, her eyebrows and eyes curved, her eyes shining brightly. She looked beautiful. Lisa is very beautiful. She has a classical and immersive temperament. Her features are exquisitely pretty, and she carries herself with a polite and elegant manner, maintaining just the right distance in her interactions. In addition to consistently ranking at the top in academic subjects, she also participates in professors' research projects. She is the envy of everyone, a top student in the school's beauty, combining beauty and intelligence. Bill is a cold and aloof top student. His parents are professors at the neighboring university. He has good grades and comes from a good family. He and Lisa's families are close friends, and they have grown up together since childhood. One, a high-quality male who is a perfect match for a childhood friend. The other, a troublemaker and underachiever raised by a father who is a murderer and a mother who is a gambler. Anyone would think that Lisa should choose Bill. But she chose to be with me, so everyone thinks that love has made her lose her intelligence. What are you thinking? Lisa pouted, dissatisfied. I have never been absent-minded during our dates. I held her hand, speaking softly, "Nothing, tomorrow is the exam, you're amazing, just relax." Lisa nodded, and we walked hand in hand to the back of the bleachers. I laid out the mat before letting her sit down, gently embracing her in my arms. Lisa slowly closed her eyes. She likes leaning against my chest. She says it makes her feel safe to listen to my heartbeat. In the deep darkness of the night, I whispered in her ear, "You can do it." She looked up and bit my lip. When we were deeply engrossed in our kiss, I heard footsteps. I looked up and saw a familiar figure. He seemed to feel like he was interrupting us and quickly turned and walked away. "Lisa, don't forget what you promised me." The figure that was leaving paused for a moment, then continued walking away. "Well, don't worry, I will relax," Lisa responded hoarsely. On my way back to the dormitory, I heard Bill standing on the balcony saying softly, "Sinking willingly." He thought that Lisa's promise to me was to give up on pursuing further studies, to marry me after graduating from university, and to live in poverty from then on. I chuckled lightly. In his eyes, what does Lisa really mean? Is love, as seen by an exceptional woman with independent thinking, about lowering oneself to cater to the mediocrity of one's partner? Does he think that Lisa should become a housewife, where her heart is only filled with her husband and children after marriage, without her own dreams and aspirations? How could that be? That's Lisa. That's the Lisa who can compete for the top spot in her field. She has her pride and aspirations, and she understands what true love is. The person who loves her wants her to spread her wings and soar high, not to be trapped like an eagle in a cage. In this lifetime, I survived the night I died in my previous life. And I hope that the tragedy involving the three of us can come to an end, and that each of us can live the life we deserve. At 9 o'clock in the evening, after I escorted Lisa back to her dormitory, I prepared to attend to some matters. Today is Friday, and local students can go home for the weekend. I walked out of the school, facing the night. Just as I stepped out of the school gate, my mother came walking towards me, grabbing my arm. Chapter 4. "I'm out of money, give me some money," my mother extended her hand, unabashedly demanding. "I'm still a student, I don't have any money," I pushed her away. "No money? Don't think I don't know. You're involved in underground fighting. If you don't give me money, I'll cause a scene at your school and get you expelled," my mother threatened shamelessly. "Fine, go ahead. If worst comes to worst, I'll drop out of school, sell the house my dad left me, and start anew. By then, you'll have nothing left. Not even a place to live," I stood my ground defiantly. "How dare you? How dare you? You little bastard, you're my child, and you dare to ignore me? I'll sue you." My mother was clearly taken aback. She tried to use filial piety to suppress me, as if being a dutiful child could control me. Ha! She drove my grandfather to his death, neglected my grandmother in the countryside with no one to care for her, and even cheated her out of her burial funds not long ago. Someone like her wants to use filial piety to control me? Go ahead and sue me. Let's see if the court will rule in your favor or mine." I took a step closer, and my mother instinctively took a step back. You better go back home now, at least you still have a place to live. Otherwise, if you provoke me, as your own child, if you don't even have a shred of humanity, how can I be expected to have any?" I grinned menacingly. My mother was terrified, as if she saw the ferocious face of my father, and she ran away in fear. I stood by the roadside, calming myself for a while, before lifting my leg and heading towards the boxing gym. My mother was right, I was involved in underground fighting. I started when I was 12 years old. If I didn't fight, I wouldn't have food to eat. My mother didn't care about me, my father was in prison, and my relatives treated me like a pariah. At first, some neighbors pitied me, but whenever someone helped me, my mother would come begging for food, saying that as a son, how could I not take care of my mother? Over time, no one wanted to invite trouble. I had to find my own way to survive. When I first started fighting, I would get beaten up every day, with bruises all over my face. But I was resilient, always able to pick myself up. Eventually, the boss couldn't bear to see it anymore. He took me in as his apprentice, and later on, the government implemented regulations. Underground fighting turned into legitimate boxing gyms. Now I work as a sparring partner in the gym. It's a proper job, legal. The next morning, I showed up outside the girls' dormitory carrying breakfast. When Lisa saw me as she walked out, she smiled brightly. "Why are you up so early?" "I'm here to accompany you to the exam." "Have your breakfast first," I spoke gently. Bill passed by me, his gaze briefly pausing on the breakfast in my hand, and then he glanced at Lisa with a complicated expression. Finally, he didn't say anything and walked past us. From his eyes, I saw a hint of coldness and disdain. He thought that I would tamper with the breakfast, preventing Lisa from completing the postgraduate entrance exam properly. He resented us and wanted to see us struggle at the bottom. He has a serious illness. I accompanied Lisa to the exam venue. For the 2 days of the exam, I dropped her off in the morning and picked her up in the evening. Lisa's mood was stable, and I could tell that she was relaxed now. It's great. After all the exams were over, Lisa and Bill walked out of the exam venue one after the other. Bill's parents were there to pick him up. He mentioned that he would have a meal with his parents after the exam. Since Lisa knows Bill's parents, it was only natural to go over and say hello. "Hello, Aunt and Uncle." "Lisa, how did the exam go?" Bill's mother asked with a smile. "It went fine, I knew most of the material," Lisa politely responded. "Did you consider skipping the exam?" Bill asked unconsciously. "Skipping the exam? Why would I do that?" Lisa looked at Bill, puzzled. Bill glanced at me, who was standing not far away, and didn't say anything. He pulled his parents away. Lisa walked over to me and said, "Why was he talking so strangely?" I unscrewed the thermos and handed it to Lisa. "Who knows, let's not try to guess a man's thoughts." "He's your roommate and a handsome guy, I thought you might be interested," Lisa teased. "I'm only interested in my own girlfriend." We laughed and joked as we headed to my rental house near the school, unaware of the shocked expressions on Bill's parents' faces in the car at the school gate. "Bill, does Lisa have a boyfriend?" "Yeah, it's the school bully, many girls are chasing after him," Bill replied indifferently. Bill's parents exchanged a glance. Chapter 5. In my previous life, Bill protected Lisa and kept everything about our relationship and her love life from reaching her family. In this life, he couldn't wait to make us suffer and told everything to his parents. He knew that his mother had a good relationship with Lisa's mother, so she would definitely tell her. Although it's normal for college students to be in a relationship, nobody could accept the heavenly pride with a hoodlum. Especially considering my terrible family background. Lisa's parents arrived quickly, so quickly that neither Lisa nor I had time to react. That night, we were celebrating and eating hot pot in the rental house. We had just opened the drinks when the sound of knocking on the door started, one after another, in an inexplicable rhythm, bringing a sense of urgency. Lisa was forcefully taken away by her family. My mother also found my rental house. She sat down grumbling, picking up her chopsticks and stuffing meat into her mouth, while still cursing me. "You have money to chase after girls and eat spicy food, but no money to give your mother, you little beast." I was worried about Lisa and didn't want to deal with my mother, so I quickly called a car and went to Lisa's villa area. The first time Lisa and I truly interacted was shortly after we entered our freshman year, in the equipment room that caught fire in the previous life. At that time, I had just finished a fight with someone, and my opponent was skilled. I had a tough time and got a few injuries. I didn't want Bill to see me in such a miserable state, so I didn't go back to the dormitory. I rested on the mat in the innermost part of the equipment room. I had just woken up when I saw Lisa sitting on the floor, piercing her own arm with a compass. I was frightened and instinctively wanted to go and ask her what happened. Before I could approach her, I saw her desperately throw away the compass and burst into tears, starting from soft sobbing and escalating into loud crying. Her frail shoulders trembled incessantly, and she seemed as fragile as a delicate flower that had been ravaged by a storm, on the verge of breaking. I slowed down my breathing, afraid to disturb her emotional outburst. After a while, Lisa seemed to calm down and noticed me. "Why are you here?" "I just finished fighting and was a bit tired, so I came here to rest." "Don't worry, I won't say anything," I hurriedly reassured her. I knew Lisa. She was in the same major as Bill and was undoubtedly the heavenly pride of our school. Many people said that she and Bill were a perfect match. "I'm sorry for bothering you." No, I'm just a rough guy. How could I be bothered?" I replied. I didn't ask her what happened and just casually chatted with her. From that day on, Lisa and I grew closer. We would often meet in the equipment room and chat without explicitly acknowledging it. I learned her secret. Lisa's father is a high-ranking official, and her mother is a chief physician. To outsiders, they appear to be a highly educated and prestigious family. But Lisa is not happy. Her parents are calm, strict, and reserved. They have never expressed love for each other, let alone for Lisa. Every day, they demand that Lisa live her life like a ruler. Her weight must not exceed the standard weight by even an ounce, and there are requirements for the annual growth rate of her height. If she fails to meet any of these requirements, she faces harsh training and strict dietary control. Lisa maintained a weight of 88 pounds at a height of 166 centimeters for 3 years. She dared not deviate even the slightest. Even the frequency of changing sanitary pads during her menstrual cycle was strictly regulated by her mother. Since childhood, Lisa has been the pride of others, always at the top of her class, excelling in piano, horse riding, and golf. Although Lisa preferred playing the pipa, swimming, and running, her parents did not allow her to pursue anything outside of their prescribed activities. She had to give up. She grew up slowly, according to their trimming. Because the price of rebellion was something she couldn't bear. They would destroy the beloved things in front of her. When Lisa was 5 years old, she got into a fight with a child at kindergarten. Her mother, without asking for the reason, warned Lisa to behave properly, then elegantly shredded the little bunny she slept with every night right in front of her. The little bunny was made by Lisa's deceased grandmother. She cried her heart out, while her mother proudly held the scissors. That scene became a shadow for Lisa for many years to come. They always knew exactly what she loved. Afterwards, the gifts from classmates, her beloved postcards, her cherished CDs, were all destroyed one by one, and she had to learn to be obedient. Whenever I think of her experiences, my heart aches so much, I wish I could bear the pain for her. Day after day, Lisa learned to suppress her emotions. She appeared calm and graceful in front of others, always generous and accommodating to anyone in need. She would even yield without having to say a word. Lisa would willingly back down. She had to be the perfect girl in her parents' eyes. Otherwise, she would be punished. With no outlet for her emotions, Lisa could only find release through self-harm. She said that the first time she cut herself with a small knife, she only felt a slight sting. Watching the fresh red blood flow, she inexplicably felt a sense of relief. I was terrified, but fortunately, she didn't reach the point of suicide before she met me. I told her that there could be another way, that she could always talk to me, and she could reach out to me anytime she needed. Chapter 6. Lisa reached out to me for the first time a month before her final exams in her first year of college. Her current major is in biological sciences, which she doesn't like at all. It was her parents' decision. She was tormented by the reality and her own expectations, unable to focus on her studies. She was losing hair in handfuls and even developed a strong desire to end her life. If she didn't rank among the top in the final exams, she believed that life would no longer be worth living. When I arrived, Lisa had already cut her wrist. Her clothes were stained with fresh blood. I was terrified and about to call for help when she grabbed my hand weakly and said, "Andy, don't let anyone know." My heart was breaking, but I agreed and covered her head with my clothes. I carried her through a gap in the school's courtyard wall and took her to a distant hospital. Lisa stayed in the hospital for 2 days. She told her teacher that she needed a week off due to inaccurate data calculation in a project. Of course, the teacher wouldn't suspect a top student and immediately approved her request. I stayed with Lisa for a week. Once she was discharged, I took her to places she had never been before, like arcades, amusement parks, and internet cafes. We also went to fast food restaurants she had never tried, like KFC, McDonald's, boxed meals, and stir-fried noodles. I repeatedly told her that there are many things in this world she hasn't experienced yet. Sometimes, indulging oneself can bring happiness. That night, Lisa did the boldest thing she had ever done in her life. She kissed me and even took off my clothes. Chapter 7. That day, we kissed passionately, almost crossing the line. But I held back because I truly fell in love with this intelligent and pitiful girl. I told her, we can be in a relationship. When you truly understand me, if you still want to, we can be together. That day, Lisa held me and cried for a long time. Her tears fell on my chest, as if a storm of emotions engulfed us. In her previous life, she found out about my death after receiving the results of her graduate entrance exam. In despair, she came to my house to find me, only to be met by my mother who grabbed her hair and slapped her, calling her a slut and blaming her for my death. According to my mother, it must have been because of her secretive affair that someone went to the equipment room late at night. My mother went mad with curses. She cursed Lisa, calling her a worthless whore, saying she willingly degraded herself and slept with boys before even graduating. She cursed her to die. She physically abused Lisa, hitting, cursing, and biting her, even tearing her clothes. She shouted, wanting everyone to see this shameless woman. Lisa kneeled on the ground, begging my mother to let her in, to let her know where I was buried. I tried my best to protect my girl, but my hands passed through them time and time again. I was powerless. Fortunately, Bill arrived in time. He wrapped Lisa tightly in his jacket, shielding her from my mother's blows and curses. After that day, Lisa was hospitalized. She attempted suicide many times. Although she was accepted into graduate school, she didn't attend. Her parents despised her for being disgraceful, and only Bill stayed by her side, accompanying her to see doctors, taking medication, and slowly recovering. Naturally, they grew closer. Later, Bill also decided not to pursue graduate studies. He and Lisa graduated together, found jobs, and eventually, both families agreed on their marriage. They began preparing for their wedding. During that time, Lisa often spaced out, but Bill was quite pleased. The day before the wedding, Bill had too much to drink. He started talking to the groomsmen about what happened back then. He said his feelings for Lisa were complicated, filled with both love and guilt. He mentioned how he had changed the location of Lisa and my date. I heard it all. I saw Lisa standing at the bedroom doorway. She heard it too. I went crazy, desperately wanting to cover Bill's mouth, but once again, I failed. I heard Bill say, I didn't know the equipment room would catch fire. I just didn't want Lisa to go astray, to give up her bright future. The groomsmen tried to console him, saying, let the past be the past. Just focus on your future together. When I looked at Lisa again, she turned around and walked straight to the window. She murmured, it's my fault. If I hadn't wanted to see you, he wouldn't have changed the location. It wouldn't have happened to you. No, it's not you, Lisa. It has nothing to do with you, absolutely nothing to do with you. Don't. I screamed crazily. But Lisa still unlocked the window's safety latch and jumped without hesitation. I descended with her, watching her smile at the corner of her lips, hearing her final words, Andy, I'm coming to find you. She blossomed before my eyes, transforming into a vibrant crimson flower. I cried and trembled, foolish girl, I only wanted you to live well. Just live. Only by living can you find your own happiness. Why couldn't you let go of me? Bill and the groomsmen were awakened by screams from downstairs. They rushed out and saw Lisa, already lifeless. Bill collapsed to the ground. The groomsman trembled as he spoke, Lisa, she heard it, she heard our conversation just now. She found out that you changed their meeting location, causing Andy's death. That's why she took her own life. Chapter 8. The people around heard what the groomsmen said, but it's unclear who spread the word. From that day on, Bill, once hailed as the pride of heaven, became the culprit who would do anything for love, destroying a pair of lovers. My mother, Lisa's parents, all came to Bill's doors to accuse him. Colleagues at work rejected us, and Bill's parents cursed him. Like heavy shackles, it weighed on Bill, causing him immense pain. In a state of mental confusion, he got into a car accident. A large truck ran over him, crushing his bones, intensifying the excruciating pain in his chest. Later on, both he and I were reborn, going back to that night when Bill was helping Lisa deliver a letter. Returning to that turning point, Bill swore to respect the fate of others. Whether or not Lisa knew how to appreciate it, whether or not she would fall, had nothing to do with him. He would observe with indifference, watching us both fall into the abyss together. Chapter 9. Letting Lisa's parents know that we were together was the first blow Bill dealt us. I had just arrived at Lisa's doorstep when she ran out. Seeing me, she immediately rushed into my arms. "Andy." "Lisa." "Andy, I did it. I successfully resisted them. They wanted to say that you abducted a minor, but I told them I'm of legal age and it was my own choice." I looked at Lisa with aching heart. "Lisa, don't. Let me finish. They said I was so stubborn, that I didn't know any better, and they want to cut ties with me. They even gave me my household registration booklet and told me to leave. So, I left." Lisa looked at me and continued speaking, bursting into tears. I held her tightly. "Lisa, you still have me. Am I so terrible? Am I not obedient enough, not excellent enough, not submissive enough? I've tried my best, but I'm really fed up. I am a person. I'm not a puppet in their hands. I have blood, flesh, and emotions. Why do I have to live like a ruler? Why can't I have a little bit of freedom? Why do I have to conform to their standards even in matters of liking someone?" Lisa cried uncontrollably, almost unable to stand. I lifted her up, and she wrapped her arms around my neck, burying her face in my chest. "My girl, suffering so much. Lisa, from now on, just follow your own thoughts. I will always be by your side. You are a free soul, and I will forever protect you." Hotel. I settled Lisa down and went to the supermarket to buy instant noodles, eggs, and her favorite milk tea. She sat on the bed, holding the milk tea, lost in thought. I boiled some eggs using the kettle and helped her apply a face mask. Her face was swollen from crying. "We'll rest here tonight, and tomorrow we'll go back to school. Winter break is coming, so take some time to think about where you want to go. We can go on a trip," I whispered. "I want to go up north to see the snow," Lisa whispered back. She had never left the city we lived in because her parents didn't allow it. I hadn't left either, because I didn't have the money. "All right, I'll arrange it. I have a lot of New Year's money." Lisa took out a card and handed it to me. "You make the arrangements. You keep your money." I rubbed her hair and comforted her for a while until Lisa fell asleep. She leaned on me, completely trusting. I looked at this girl who died in the previous life because of me and was now brave for me. My heart warmed. Actually, I did have some money. To avoid my mother, I kept it with my boss. Once they discovered my previous rented house, I couldn't live there anymore. I planned to tidy up and terminate the lease in the next 2 days. I would stay in the dormitory. Bill, with his proud nature, wouldn't do anything to me. At most, he would just be indifferent. Anyway, I was used to it. With Lisa's grades, she would definitely get into graduate school. Then she could leave this place. Yes, Lisa didn't apply for graduate school locally. She secretly chose a school in the northern city. My Lisa is a brave girl. When she goes to pursue her master's degree, I'll go there to find a job. We'll rent a place near her school. I have hands and feet, and she's smart and capable. We'll surely live a good life together. Until after the final exams, no one from Lisa's family came to the school to find her, nor did they contact her. It seemed like they were waiting for her to compromise. Chapter 10. I went back to my dormitory and didn't expect Bill to leave first. Before taking the postgraduate entrance exam, he had also applied to universities abroad, and he received the acceptance letter from there first. Bill packed his things and left. I knew it was him who let Lisa's parents know about our relationship. With him, the filter of the past completely shattered, and I thought he was really low. I couldn't be bothered to deal with him. I was the only one left in the dormitory, feeling relaxed and at ease. Every day, I searched for information and organized my belongings. After the exams, Lisa and I boarded the train heading north. The northern city was beautiful. We happened to get off the train just as it started snowing. The snowflakes falling from the sky carried a romantic embrace, and Lisa excitedly spun around in the snow. I accompanied her, leaving our luggage by the roadside and building snowmen, having a snowball fight. She was so thrilled and started whispering to me, "Snow is so wonderful." Her voice gradually grew louder, "Snow is so amazing." I indulgently watched her play around. When she got tired, we called a car and I gave the address. It was a residential area. "Are we staying in a guest house?" Lisa asked. "It's a house I rented, right next to your graduate school." I told the landlady that I came here to study, and she gave me a good discount, I said with a smile. "Renting a house must be expensive," Lisa paused and asked. Lisa didn't have a clear concept of money. She had been like a caged canary since she was young, not being able to make decisions or buy things on her own. Whatever her parents gave her, she used. "It's all right. I've been boxing for these past few years and earned quite a bit of money. My master even introduced me to a boxing gym here. I won't be jobless after graduation." I squeezed her small hand. "Aren't you planning to find a job in your field of study?" Lisa tilted her head and asked. "I didn't really put much effort into my field of study when I was in school," I lowered my head, feeling somewhat ashamed. With the chaotic situation at home, I still had to support myself, and my energy was limited. "It's okay. Self-media has great prospects. You can upload videos of your boxing on the internet and gradually build up a fan base. Once you have many fans, you can do live streams and train with them," Lisa suggested. "Great. If that really works, we can go on vacations during your breaks without hindering your money-making." My eyes lit up. Our Lisa is amazing. We arrived at the rental house, envisioning a bright future all the way. The landlady was waiting for us, knowing that we would come straight from the train station. She even cooked 4 dishes and made dumplings for us. As we looked at the cozy atmosphere inside the house, our hearts felt warm. "Live here comfortably, and if you need anything, just let me know," the landlady warmly said. "Thank you, sister," we expressed our gratitude repeatedly. After we had eaten our fill, we began to explore our little home for the next 3 years. It was a 2-bedroom apartment with a living room. The master bedroom had a double bed, the second bedroom had a single bed, and there was a slightly worn-out desk. The living room had a large balcony in a semicircular shape, without glass windows. We could touch the snow just by opening the sliding door. Both of us, foolish Southerners, were excited beyond words. With no signs of sleepiness, we leaned on the desk together, starting to think about how to transform our little home. Of course, we needed the landlady's permission before making any changes. Many years later, when we had a bigger house, we still couldn't help but remember that night. Our heads close together, whispering and laughing excitedly. Chapter 10. We took 2 days to rest, slowly purchasing our daily necessities while exploring the city. I didn't have much savings, and after paying the rent, I had only $50,000 left. I set aside Lisa's tuition fees separately. The remaining money was divided, with a portion used to improve our lives and another portion saved for the last semester's living expenses. In the second half of my senior year, after enrolling in school, I could start my internship and return to the city when it was time to graduate. Lisa and I discussed and decided that after reporting to school, we would come back here. Once her grades were released, she would contact her advisor here and offered to assist with experiments. This period of time was the most content I had ever been in my life. In the blink of an eye, it was time to start school. We went back to the university, completed the necessary procedures, and headed to the high-speed rail station together. That's when my mother found me. She grabbed my arm and refused to let me go. Seeing Lisa next to me, she started yelling at the top of her lungs. "You little slut, it's because of you that my son won't come home. You mixed-blood bastard, you abandoned your own mother for a woman. Are you even human?" My mother had a loud voice, and as she shouted, more people gathered around. Lisa's face turned red. She had never encountered such a spiteful woman before and was a bit overwhelmed. Instinctively, she hid behind me. The onlookers chimed in with their opinions. "Young man, how can you abandon your own mother? That's right, your mother went through so much trouble to raise you. Isn't it easy for her? Young girl, you're so charming. How can you ruin the mother-son relationship?" I tightly held Lisa's hand and firmly spoke up. "Do you want a gambling addict for a mother?" The people around us were stunned. A mother who never gave you a penny since you were little, who forced you to cook, do laundry, and household chores at the age of 5. Do you want that? Since I was 12, I had to support myself, barely had enough to eat every day, and she would even snatch money from my pockets. Do you want a mother like that? A mother who would rather give money to strange men to buy cigarettes than buy me a loaf of bread? Do you want that? I looked at them, each word falling with emphasis. The surrounding people fell silent, even those who had initially taken out their phones to record quietly put them down. My mother angrily shouted, "What's wrong with doing some household chores? Which child doesn't do chores from a young age? So what if I spend some of your earnings? I am your mother." This time, the people around us erupted. "What kind of person is she? Young man, leave quickly, don't pay attention to her." "That's right, we'll block her, you go." I thanked everyone. "Thank you, everyone. My family matters, we will handle them privately." The crowd looked at me as someone with determination, and slowly dispersed. My mother realized the fierce looks from the people around her and dared not shout anymore. "Every month, I will transfer money into your old account," I spoke up. "Good son, I knew you were a good one." My mother's eyes sparkled, and her attitude instantly improved. $800 a month, you can stay in my house, but the allowance will only cover your basic needs. I will have someone watch over you, and if I find out that you're gambling again, the money will be gone, and I will sell the house too." "How dare you?" my mother shouted. "You'll see if I dare or not. If you want me to give you money later, you can sue me in court, and the court will decide how much I have to give. You better believe what I'm saying now." After finishing my words, I pulled Lisa into the train station. My mother muttered, "So stingy, so generous to women, but so stingy with me." I paid no attention and didn't look back. I needed to take care of myself and Lisa first. As for love, it was no longer possible, only responsibility remained. Chapter 11. Returning to the rented house, we settled down completely. Lisa was admitted to graduate school, and she had contacted her advisor in advance. The advisor was happy to know that Lisa had moved here, and we had a meal together. The advisor was a typical elder from the north, generous and enthusiastic. Knowing that Lisa didn't have much to do during this time, he took her directly to the lab to work on projects with fellow students. I also started a new job. I'm quite handsome, and I'm popular at the boxing gym. I registered a social media account and initially started recording boxing matches. Slowly, as I gained more fans, I started live streaming boxing sessions with my followers. By the time we graduated, I had become a boxing influencer with hundreds of thousands of fans. Lisa always praised me for being capable. The day before she started school, we obtained our marriage certificate. In our new life, we are each other's only family. 3 years later, Lisa graduated from her master's program, and we both fell in love with this city, with its distinct 4 seasons. We decided to settle down in this city and bought a house, a detached villa in the suburbs. The building area isn't large, but it has a huge backyard. We want to build a tree house in the yard and dig a swimming pool. We plan to cover the walls with roses, all in red. Lisa likes red. She says red is passionate and lively. We planted only red roses. Lisa even reserved a plot of land specifically for growing vegetables, as she wants to enjoy a self-sufficient life in the future. During Lisa's 3 years in graduate school, her parents never contacted her. I don't know if they were being stubborn or what. Lisa never mentioned them either. My mother, on the other hand, contacted me a few times, wanting more money from me. I firmly refused her, and during the month when she called frequently, I cut off her financial support. After all, she hasn't reached the age where I should be paying her alimony. Once she realized her fear, my mother no longer dared to bother us and quietly lived her own life. Later, our daughter was born. She's a soft and chubby little girl, incredibly adorable. I truly feel that if she calls me dad, I would give my life for her. Not long after our daughter was born, I received a call from Lisa's parents. They implied that they wanted to come and see the child. I said I would consult Lisa's opinion. They were very dissatisfied, but still didn't contact Lisa directly. Naturally, I wouldn't do anything to upset my wife, so I didn't bring it up either. Since they believe they've never done anything wrong, we will only bear the necessary responsibilities. If you don't give us love, how can we reciprocate it? Time passes freely like this. After graduating, Lisa stayed at the university and her work went smoothly. She had a good relationship with her colleagues and professors. My fan base has reached millions, and I have my own brand of sportswear, nutrition meals, and fitness equipment. My career is successful, and my family is happy. I never expected to see Bill again. That day, I was dropping off a friend at the airport and coincidentally ran into Bill. "Andy, long time no see." Bill looked at me, his gaze filled with scrutiny. I was dressed in a tailored suit, maintaining my fitness from years of training. I was in good physical and mental shape. "Bill, long time no see. Are you here on a business trip?" I asked. "Yeah, I'm here for a meeting. And you?" Bill paused. I chuckled. "Lisa and I got married right after college. Now, our child is already growing up." Bill froze. "Did Lisa's parents agree to your marriage?" "We got married because we agreed to. Lisa has completely distanced herself from her family. We have money and love now. We're living a good life. And you, Bill? Are you doing well?" I looked at Bill and asked. Bill lifted his chin and quietly replied with 2 words, "Very good." "That's good then. Old classmate, I wish you happiness." I finished speaking and turned to leave. "I'm doing well. As for whether you're doing well or not, I actually don't care. I won't invite you into my life. We are destined to be strangers." When I arrived home, Lisa had already prepared dinner. Our little girl was barefoot, climbing up the tree house and singing loudly. The lazy rays of the sunset filled the yard. My wife. My daughter. My home. It's truly wonderful.